So let's go back in time. Let's look at ancient Athens in the year 432 BC. At the time, Athens had a population of around 140,000 people, making it one of the largest city states in ancient Greece. And because of this, Athens dominated the entire Mediterranean in military, government, education, and social class. When looking at Athens' government, Athens is known to be the birthplace of democracy since citizens were allowed to vote. And when I say citizens, I mean only the father figures of the household were allowed to vote because they believed that if the father figures or the head of the household were allowed to vote, that meant the entire city's voice was heard. And because this was a democracy, there was democracy, there were elected government officials. And in Athens, there were 10 generals, the magistrates, which were basically judges, and the council of 500. And assemblies would happen every month or if there were a major event happening. So basically, times of war, they would have these assemblies, and they would basically talk about what the city should do and what the people should do. When talking about Athens' military, majority of people noticed how great their was. And Athens had one of the greatest navy fleets in the entire Mediterranean. During the during the time of war, all male citizens had to join the army, and because of this, majority of the army were peasants, and a lot of these people weren't able to afford equipment, uniforms. So Athens never really had an official army uniform. So equipment and uniform were just passed down from generation to generation. When we're looking at the ranking system in the military, it really mattered on the wealth, how much money you really had. Because if you had a lot of money or you were born into an aristocratic family, you could afford better equipment, better armor, and essentially you could just pay your way up the military and become a high ranking general if you were wealthy enough. When we are looking at the when we're looking at the weaponry that these soldiers would use. For long range, they would use a long 2 to 3 meter long spear that was leaf shaped at the top and had a double edged iron tip. If the line ever broke and they had to fight in close combat, they would use a short, double bladed, leaf shaped iron sword. Now, after talking about the government and military, let's look at their education. So Athens' education was a little lopsided. So, for instance, if you were a girl, you weren't allowed to be educated unless you were born into an aristocratic family. Then you were allowed to. Then your family were able to purchase a tutor, and they would teach you how to read, write, and basically public speaking. However, for boys, you would attend school from the age 5 till you were about 14. And once you were finished with school, you would join the military. While in school, you would learn reading, writing, mathematics, public speaking, music, and gymnastics. And whenever you get out of the military, if you wanted to further your education and you had the wealth, you can attend college. And most people stay in college until you were in your mid 20s, and you would mainly study philosophy. So we talked about their government, their education system, and their military. Now let's take a look at their social class. So at the very top, you have your aristocrats, and the aristocrats basically controlled all of the money and controlled majority of Athens, since these people could basically pay their way up into the military and pay to become government officials. Then in the middle class, you have your farmers and peasants, and your lowest class were known as the Teats. Tate, I believe I'm saying that right. And these people were more as craftsmen, blacksmiths, or rowers in the Navy. And these people basically lived in poverty their entire lives. However, the people who lived outside of Athens were known as Demetrics. And these people were not allowed to own land in Athens. However, they were allowed to own businesses and industries, which is a weird way on looking at it. So I hope you find all of this information really interesting and fascinating, like how I did. Uh, I had no idea how complex the ancient city of Athens really was. Looking at their government, their military, education system, and social class, I really hope this encourages more people to research more about ancient cities. Thank you.